Feel at home, there's nothing to worry. Well, maybe a little bit. Nareen always has a good question to start us off. Not today?
After that video, no more questions.
Oh, yes? So he says that he saw the video of me on the hot seat with Guruji, and then he's apparently, we'll see,
Like now.
he left his question. There's a greater reality than the one that we encounter with our perceptions. And the idea is not to believe that, but to really discover that. Because most who are in this room probably already believe that somewhere. You don't come to Satsang if you believe that the world is all there is. Mostly you come because you already have an idea that there must be a greater reality which is beyond this realm of perceptions. Isn't it? So, how do we come to this discovery? And what is that greater reality? That is the question that we have to ask. Is there such a thing? Beyond the visible, what exists, what is real, what is true? So if I say that there is God, and He must be found, not just believed in, and that is when satsang or our spiritual life really starts. There is no spirituality without spirit. And spirit is what? It is the presence of God itself. Is there such a thing? And I go as far as to say that it is a wasted life spent on wasted things if all that we have done all this life is be concerned about things which are in the realm of Maya, in the realm of perception. And that to many sounds too radical or too much, especially when I say it is a zombie life. It is actually not life at all unless we find the living presence within ourselves, the Atma within. So satsang is to take you away from that zombie life to true life, which is to discover first the presence of God and then to learn how to live in that presence in spite of the temptations of the mind to pull us away from that and to give this Maya more reality than that which is beyond and that which is true. So the fundamental 101 of Vedanta is what? That which comes and goes is not real. That which is perceived comes and goes, and therefore is not real. There is a greater reality we must find. So how many of us can say that if we look right now, we can find God? His presence is here. Those ones are in more trouble with me. The ones who say, I haven't yet found God, may have an easier time with me. But those who say, yes, I found God, but I see that they're still wandering in their mind, in the realm of unreality, then I may be stronger with them. So, traditionally, the famous question of spirituality is when a disciple goes to a master, he says, or she says, can you show me God? Do you have that question? Or does it seem too far fetched? One of the tricks in this world is to convince us that God realization or self realization is too far fetched. It's only for a rare one. So it is not at all possible for me. Yeah. We were just joking the other day and saying that so many of you complain that it's so much faith, so much humility is needed to come to God. All I came to Satsang was for freedom from suffering. I just came to find some peace. Yeah. So I say that, okay, you wanted some one plate idli vada, but instead you had the whole buffet laid out for you, which has everything. Would you complain about that? Or would you say, wow, this is so good? You see? So you came for freedom from suffering, you came for peace, you see? But you're actually finding a much greater gift. That which is eternal, that which is beyond life and death. So it is very important to either prove me right or prove me wrong. So I am saying that there is God, His presence can be found within yourself, and without that, your life is not worth living. I'm not saying believe me, I don't want blind belief, but I want you to take a stand. I want you to say, there isn't a God like that you say, I have really looked. You see? So you're either a con man or a fool. You're trying to take something from us. Or come to this truth that I'm saying. But you cannot leave it for later. You can't say, yes, yes, okay, but there's time. Because nobody knows. The youngest one in this room doesn't know how much time there is. And if you spend your whole life without coming to the most important discovery, the whole purpose of life, then for me that is a pointless life. And again, I'm saying you can prove me wrong. How would you prove me wrong? You could investigate, you could focus on this and say, but there isn't such a thing as God. Or even if there is, it is somewhere high atop the mountains, I cannot find God within myself. Or say that I came to God, but really, what is the big deal? I don't see the distinction between the zombie life and the true life, as you call it. No big deal. God is here. You see? But how is it possible that I'm telling you that the highest being that you can ever discover is to be found? You see? Because if I told you that actually Ranbir Kapoor is sitting in that room at the end, all of you would rush to that room. Even if you say, I'm not a fan, you'd say, okay, at least I'll get to tell my family I saw him. You see, isn't it? So you would do that. But if I say God's presence is there, the one, the light of this universe, and can be found and must be found, you don't rush in the same way. How is that? It doesn't have that urgency, it doesn't have that prioritizing. And that is only because you think that this is more real than anything that I'm telling you. You think that the realm of perceptions is more real. The events that happen here are more real. Take them to be reality. And that which your spiritual heart is telling you, your intuition is telling you, you ignore that. Otherwise, it is not possible to remain static in this way, only attached to this realm of appearances, this dream state, especially when someone is inviting you to a greater reality. So if I said to you that Sri Krishna is sitting in that room, perceptually, in his shining glory, then what would you do right now? Run, no? Guru Guru छोड़ो भगवान बैठे हैं है ना so you would run, isn't it? And fair enough, very important that you do that. You see? So, but when I say that he lives in your heart, then it sounds poetic or metaphorical and not literal. You see? And to come to satsang is to make this which sounds just metaphoric or poetic, to make that into your literal reality. Then our true satsang begins. You come to the company of the truth. So whether we say Ram, Krishna, Jesus, Allah, whatever we say, it is important to go beyond the words into the discovery of that. So that is what satsang is for. To meet a greater reality than that which our perceptions are showing us. And I promise you that if one day you rush to him literally like that, but inwardly, with the innocence of a child, you will find him. Wholehearted is all that is needed. But if we hedge our bets, if we say, okay, but 50% ego and 50% God, then it doesn't work. If you try to balance it, then you cannot find God. If you commit 100% to Him, then He will balance your life. You see, most of our brothers and sisters in this world don't come to God because they say that I have other things to do. But I'm not saying give up on any other things that we have to do. But inwardly, instead of keeping the ego, a me, in your heart temple, make that the sacred space for God. Because chasing the me, valuing the me, you see, only leads to suffering. Now, whether that suffering comes today, tomorrow, or 10 years later, we cannot predict. But nobody has been able to ride this tiger of the me and to survive unscathed. And to what end? Elevate the me, elevate the me, elevate the me, and die one day. Is there a me that doesn't die, that is beyond death? So, what I'm saying is both urgent and important. As Kabirji said, काल करे सो आज करे सो अब पल में परलय होएगी बहुरी करेगा कब. Unfortunately, we got so jaded with this stuff because it was used to get us to do our homework and things like that. So we just don't want to hear it anymore. What is very important, you cannot put this off for tomorrow. You cannot say that we'll do this tomorrow. Because that tomorrow, it never comes. Most of you have met for many years. Some of you are meeting for the first time today. But whether it is the first time today or met for many years, the message has been the same. Can you learn to look beyond that which seems so real? I love the definition that Anandmayi Ma gave for Maya. No? She said Maya is Main Aya. It means the me comes. When the me comes, it is Maya. Is it? Now, is there a chance that she could be lying? No chance. Now we have a photo up on the walls. She could not be lying. No? So, are we trying to lead a life which is empty of this me? Or is it that really we haven't suffered enough in this Maya, or we think that eventually I will win in this game of unreality? Do you feel like it is possible to keep this non-existent egoic me at the center of your life and to live in God's presence? The sages have told us that the lane is too narrow. If there is me, there cannot be God. And if there is God, there cannot be me. So along the path, a lot of challenges may come because the mind doesn't say, yes, yes, God, please come. My life is yours. Your mouth may say that, but your mind doesn't say that. It resists. It is designed to resist. It is designed to narrate a story to us which seems like the story of our life. And we want to make God a secondary character in that story. My life, and I want to find God. Not God's life, in which this me is meant to just be in servitude to Him. That is not the narrative that the mind is trying to tell you. Even God for you is about you. And if this me remains at the center, God seems like a distant idea. If God remains at the center, then this me seems like a distant idea. Now, if you were new to satsang, most of you would complain and say, but this me is real. You would say, but this me is reality. And that is why the sages have laid out this path of insight, love, and servitude. So, if this me is real, can you find it? That is the path of insight or self-inquiry. To ask, who am I? Who are you? You may say that, or the mind may get trapped at this moment and say, I am this body. But if you really took yourself to be just a body, then what are you doing in satsang? What is here for your body? No, you take yourself to be a me that has relationships, that has financial security, that has a body, and that which wants to find ultimate meaning, or God or truth, whatever you want to call it. But where is this me? Who is this me? Literally, where is this me? Who is it? Huh?
It's a suggestion.
It's a suggestion. But can a suggestion be an entity? And a suggestion from the mind. So when the suggestion is believed, so suppose the suggestion was that you're a frog. Then if you believed you're a frog, what's a nice name for a frog? Kermit, okay. Suppose you're Kermit the frog. If you just believed all the time you're Kermit the frog, you see, after how much time would it start feeling real? You say, I'm Kermit the frog, but I've been misplaced in this human body. And truly I want to find my true home. Which pond or which lake or which river to have to live in. If this was what was fed to you since you were born, that actually you're a frog living in a human body, and also you had a mind which was constantly telling you this, then would you not take yourself to be such an absurd suggestion as even Kermit the frog? In the same way, our mind tells us that we are this me who has a name, Ananta, or whatever the name is, and society seems to treat us that way. Everyone tells us that we are this. So we take this me to be true. But isn't it absurd that nobody really looks for who this me is, where this me is? Very few do. Maybe the idea is that, but the whole world can't be wrong. But the whole world has been wrong so often. So we must find out for ourselves. Is there such a one called whatever our name is? And where is that one? Is it?
It's only there in not checking.
Huh?
It's only there in not checking.
It is only
There in not checking.
when we don't check, only then it seems real. When we check, we don't find. When I started sharing satsang, I said, I'll give $1,000 to anyone who can show me this me, produce this me. And that bet is still on. Nobody can make this claim to win this bet because such a me actually doesn't exist. Otherwise, Anand Mahima wouldn't have said that Maya is when main aaya. You see? That means it is possible to live without this me, or at least without the oppression of it. Now, what must it be? So it's like you looked and you looked and you looked, and you can't find this me, and yet you make the me central in your life. What is that called? Huh? Stupidity. Yes. The fancy word for this stupidity is avidya, ignorance. So, Bhagwan Sri Ramana Maharishi said that the coming to the self is to let go of avidya, not the attainment of something new. What is this avidya? This stupidity that I check and I check and I check, I don't find such a me, and yet all my allegiance, all that I'm in service to is this me. And there is no way that we continue to feed ourselves ignorance, avidya, and come to truth. We must free ourselves from this ignorance. So now you may say, okay, I'm empty of, suppose that I'm empty in this moment of the false. I still don't see God. Isn't it? You may make that complaint, because I said, empty of the false, God is here. Is here. Okay, now empty. Truly, truly empty. I'm empty. Where's God? Huh? Where's God? It's a fair question. You see? Now, I would ask you, and this is where most in spirituality they fail, because they're waiting for an experience of God, you see, in the perceptual realm. You see? But what is the fundamental of Vedanta? All that you perceive comes and goes, and therefore is fundamentally unreal. So then, is that a cop-out? Oh, can't be perceived. So then I can't find. Is it like that? No. There is another instrument which has been lying unused in our life. We've used what instruments of knowledge? And my daughter studied TOK and things like that. No? So what is the instruments of knowledge? The instrument of perception. So perception tells us things, how many fingers, 5, like that. So that's perception. And then we have a mode of knowledge called the mind, thoughts. So if I say, is the earth moving at a rapid speed or is it flat? Is it still? Is it? In perception, you see it as still. You see? But because some credible people have told you, scientists have told you, you say, no, it is moving at a rapid rate. And not just one way, it is moving around its axis and going around the sun. This, which seems so stationary. So that is the second mode of knowledge, which is conceptual. We buy the concept because it came from a credible source. You see? And in a way, that is how spirituality also is for most. Because they feel like they trust someone, so there must be a God, because he's saying there is a God. But our attempt today is to go beyond that. So besides thinking and perceiving, what is the mode of knowledge that you have? Feeling. But feeling is also perceived, isn't it? When you're angry, you can perceive the perception of anger. When you're joyous, you can perceive the perception of joy, and you can categorize them in that way. But beyond perception and thinking, perception is seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, feeling, all that is perception. So what is it that is beyond these modes? Yes, being, but how do you recognize this being? So this, let's start off by calling it intuition, intuitive insight. I call it the heart insight, heart knowledge. You see, but I have to use that word carefully because most misunderstand the heart to be emotional. I'm very emotional, so I'm all heart, I'm no head, I'm all heart. You see, but most of those people are just going up and down with their emotions because emotions are that way. You see, I'm not talking about the emotional center. I'm talking about the spiritual core called intuition. How many of you can say that you know this, you have found this, you know this instrument? Or does it feel like it's only perceiving and thinking? Thinking is also a form of perception, but it's important to call out separately. So, for those of us who feel that we haven't met this yet, I can tell you that, especially if I'm speaking to a parent, so if I ask a parent, do you love your children? They say yes. Even when they may be extremely irritated with them, they may be frustrated that they're not doing their work, they're getting calls from school, anger is there. And yet you ask a parent, do you love your children? They say yes. You see, are they faking it? No. It's a love which is deeper than feeling, because the feeling at that moment may be anger, irritation. But there's something deeper. How is that recognized? You see? An unconditional love actually is love for God. How do we recognize that? You just know. So what is this just know? You see, because we said 3 modes of knowledge: perception, thinking, and just know, which is intuitive. You see, because it doesn't need a perception, it doesn't need any thoughts. There's a deeper. You see, it most will say, I just know. You see? With me so far, everyone is with me, or have I lost someone? So, this is a very important clue to come to the discovery of God. You see? And most in spirituality are doing it wrong because they're trying to have a fireworks experience. Trying to have a fireworks experience of God, saying, once I have that, you see, God will come in my favorite form and he will say or she will say, Tathastu, and then I am free. We feel that that is going to be the discovery of God. But truly the discovery is where you know unconditional love. There you know the presence of being. That's why when I ask you, can you stop being? Don't be right now. Don't exist. What is it that you find? What do you do? You stopped existing? Cannot do it. Because there is a presence there, isn't it? Like I am, I exist. You see? Now, this I am is very, very important. Because this I am is not the egoic me that we spoke about. This is independent of thought and perception. This I am is the same one where it is said, God said, I am that I am. Or we say Om, or we say Atma, we say being. We call it the Holy Spirit, the Sadguru presence. So this we must hold on to for dear life, come what may. And if you want to hold on to it for dear life, come what may, 100%, then maybe you can do it 50%. If you commit that my life will be spent in the presence of this being, in this I am, 100%, always, you see, then Maya will trick you 50% of the time. But if you say, I am going to balance it out 50-50, this one I'm going to juggle and all of that, then it's going to happen very, very little. You see? Because Maya is compelling. Now, some of you may say, but I don't know whether I'm really finding this I amness or not, this beingness or not. You see? Why couldn't it be just simple? You see? Like, is there a remote here? Yes. So why couldn't this Atma be like that? You see? If it was simple like that, then everybody would find it and all this misery would end. Like that, you see. Like that. You see? But imagine if the being itself was became just objective perception, then it would be worthless, pointless. It would not become the doorway to lead us to a greater reality which is beyond perception. That is why this being had to be both phenomenal and non-phenomenal. So all of you can say, I can find it, but I can't really place it, So the mind will come and say, you're just fooling yourself. You are not finding anything, you see. And you buy that. Maybe not in satsang, or maybe not openly in satsang, but somewhere you buy that because it just feels like it's not solid, you see. But if being just became another solid, then it would just become an object. And if being became purely nominal, purely non-phenomenal, then most of us could not approach it at all. Like most of us have this idea of awareness, but most of us really don't approach it. even if we think we do. You see? Because it is just non-phenomenal. You see? And we feel like we don't have the tools to grasp that which is non-phenomenal. So being, Atma, you say, I feel it. Like you said, I feel it somewhere. But I say, where do you feel it? I don't know, somewhere in my heart or somewhere in my head. I feel there's a feeling. But when I ask you, what is its boundary? Many of you say it has no boundary. You see, but you just said you feel it in your heart. You see? So you're meeting the paradox, the dichotomy of its phenomenal nature and its non-phenomenal nature. And that is what is like a Zen koan to your mind. You can't solve it. You see? And that is why most of us live in this constant doubt, even after the discovery of the Atma within, that is it really true? Am I really finding it? You see? And as it is, the spiritual marketing scares us. It says Atma Gyan is only for 1 in a million. I won't be that 1 in a million, that much I know. You see, we presume. But it's not true. You see, because even the odds are with you actually. Huh? If you take even 1 in a million, 7 billion out of 7 billion, what is 1 in a million? Come on. Huh? The bankers in this room can see. Come on. Huh? 7,000? 7,000 or 70,000. Either way, the odds are with us. Huh? So it is possible because how many are really looking for this anyway? So don't devalue your search. Don't allow the mind to become the doubting Thomas, constantly saying, no, 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 you can't find it, you're not worthy, it will never happen for you. And don't go with the opposite end of the mind also. It will just say, yeah, yeah, you're it. You're the next Messiah, you've done it. You see? So don't fall for either of those tricks. But I've seen in satsang, most of us are afflicted with the first one. You see? The second one, when you come into satsang, then you say something and you get chopped usually. So that is sorted out mostly. But the first one is usually what gets us often. So don't go for either tricks of the mind. So to come to the discovery of the presence within, which itself could be the end of whatever needs to be said. So don't treat this as a halfway point or something like that. You see, because what I'm going to say next, your mind will say, yes, yes, I want that absolute. But you can't come to that absolute before you come to this. You see? But what is that absolute? I is aware of even the sense of I am, isn't it? Huh? And I did not misspeak or use bad grammar. You are aware of even this being. But this you, this I, is your absolute reality and completely non-phenomenal. So you cannot grasp it. Even you cannot say, like for Atma, we can say it's the primordial vibration. It's the most primal cause, being. But you are aware even of this boundless being. What can you say about this I? Very difficult to find words to describe it. Impossible actually, it's ineffable. But this is your discovery. This is the recognition of the self, the realization of the self, capital S. And this happens in the light of the Sadguru presence, in the light of the Atma within. Do we get the darshan of the Paramatma? Do we get the darshan of the Absolute? In the light of the Saguna, or the core of the Saguna, we get a darshan of the Nirguna. So when it is said that the Guru is the bringer of light, it is the light on that which is unperceivable. There's enough light in the world for the perceivable, isn't it? You can have a stadium floodlight. So would that be a great Guru? It's a bringer of light. Is it? No, but there's a unique light which can bring light to that which is unperceivable, beyond perception. And in that way, the Guru is unique. Which Guru is this? Your own intuition, your own Sadguru presence, your own Atma, of which the outer Guru is just a mere instrument. Is it? So it is very important to come to this Guru within your heart. Is it? Because only he or she can lead you to that ultimate reality. So this is the path of insight. See? Mike?
Sense of self. This sense of self, the sense of being, I can say with certainty is same in everyone. But how come your presence is so powerful that mine does not stand a chance in front of it, but I get slapped so much
Yeah.
with
Maybe
the
what
mind?
you're calling your is actually you.
I mean, the presence is not strong enough here, and the mind has that much power still.
Okay, so let's go with this question. So you say that my presence is very strong compared to yours. Now, where is my presence being felt? Inside you or outside you? So that is your true presence. It seems to come to the satsang hall, to come in the energy field of the sangha, it may feel that it is from outside, but actually it is the letting go and providing the energetic support for you to taste your own presence. You see? So this one is a bundle of flesh. You see? And this bundle of flesh is only a servant to that presence which you're feeling inside you, in your heart. When you feel this presence, which you say is my presence, do you also feel another presence, like other presence? You see? So this is your presence. So the master's job is just to introduce you to this presence which is within yourself. Right now you can confirm that it is within yourself, isn't it?
Ananta-ji, right now the seeing is clear because the mind does not have that power.
Exactly, exactly.
But I believe that it is your power.
And that is what I clarified, that to come to satsang, to come to the sangha, our mind seems to still. There's support here, spiritual support, which makes you experience this holy presence within yourself. But it is always there, only within yourself. So our life must become a satsang in that way, See? That if you're not able to be here regularly, then our inner life must become sacred like a temple of God. You see? Because this outer seeming temple of God plays the role of helping you get to your heart temple. See? So, insight, love, servitude, all these make our space sacred so that the presence is palpable for us. So that is my job, to make it palpable for all of you so that you can, that's what I meant, hang on to it with all our might, with all our life. And whatever makes us open like that, makes us inwardly open, inwardly sacred for God's presence to be felt, is good. So you may be away from Bangalore, but suppose hearing something or doing something or chanting something or inquiring, whatever helps to bring us here, we must do. And we must not get discouraged that it's much easier than in Bangalore, in the Satsang hall. We have to use whatever situation God has given us, we have to use that to get to Him because He knows the recipe for our life the best. But you can come every month. We're happy to have you.
So, a place where frustration sometimes comes here is in the guidance where you.
It's the only place where frustration comes.
So there's the guidance of find the I am and hold on to it for dear life. And as soon as God's presence starts to percolate and it's felt, this guidance, my mind, it like tries to grab onto something, but it can't grab it.
Leave what the mind is doing.
And that's
The guidance is not for your mind because your mind cannot grab this. It is for you to stay with this and not go to the mind. So it's like saying, I come to God's presence, but then my mind starts saying this and that and this and that. You see? It's just like saying, I gave that example the other day. Mostly all these famous Indian temples are very crowded. You see? So what happens? You go in this huge line maybe for 7 hours, 8 hours, you're walking, you get to the point of darshan. You see? But at that point of darshan you maybe have 2-3 seconds. You see? So what happens is somebody pushes you, and you're like, why did you push me? And in that 3 seconds you're gone. The whole thing is moved forward. You see, or something happens and you're caught up somewhere, or something else. So you miss that thing. So don't do that in your life where you have the chance to be with God's presence. You yourself are saying it's God's presence. Then why is it so important what the mind is doing or saying? You see, you cannot fix it here and here. This one will be like this only. You must write it off. Bad debt.
It's so many times it's in many different texts it's been said, the value of this I am, the presence of it, the scent of it. And the way that it's really feeling alive is God's presence shines even brighter in just abiding in that neutrality and not at all getting involved with the scent, or just keeping a neutrality in whatever plays.
So again, I'm telling you that leave this part. Just become headless.
Okay.
become headless, so then no categories, neutralities, the sand, all that. You don't have to prove to anyone or to yourself what you're doing. Are you being neutral? Are you following the sand? You don't have to give yourself a certificate. You don't have to wait for a mind certificate to come. Don't bother about what's happening at this level. Just are you being neutral right now? What's that? Are you taking a position? I am. What's that? You see, are you being empty? What's that? All the words are only so that you could get here. After you get here, you don't need tactics. You see, you don't need any more moves. You come in God's presence. And this part of the pointing actually cannot be explained. It has to just hit home somewhere, because everything that I can say can also be taken by the mind to make a new position out of it. You see? So it just has to, grace has to find a way. Just the words are just a medium of expression, but something behind them is just met. It just explodes in our heart in a way.
And I just want to pry at this because I see that this is a mind's position, and it's really
It's really the mind. Once you say it is just a mind position, then
yeah.
because everything that you would say after that is just going to convey that there is still some value being ascribed to it. I know it's just the mind, but still, and sometimes you even say, I just want to expose it to you. So after many years, I caught this trick. And say, when you want to expose it to me because you want to give it more value or less value. So many times because I want to, bring it to you and see if there's value in it. No, there's no value in it. You already said it is the mind. Huh? Like that he said? You can keep looking and analyzing and then figure out where did that come from? Where did that come from? And keep inventing layers of consciousness. Don't have to do any of that. It's still here.
I just think
Yeah, exactly.
there might be some value in exposing it.
That's what happens. That we already said mind. Finished. That is the temptation. That is the literal definition of temptation. Temptation is not just lust or hunger, or it's just like some position which seems to be, this seems true, it seems true. But remember, seems true is literally the definition of Maya. You see, Maya doesn't seem false. You see, the illusion, the dream, is designed to seem true, but there's a huge quantum leap between seems true and is true. It's a completely different instrument. And if you keep going with seems true, then actually we're just buying into the false, even if it is trying to sound spiritual. You see, the mind, obviously, to get your belief now, to get your identification now, will tune itself to spiritual sounding stuff. You see? This is how it is. See, like that. Even satsang sounding. Be careful of this one, because belief in this one, if you keep buying this one, the spiritual mind, what is it? What is the end goal of the spiritual mind?
Get you identified.
Yes, that is any mind, but identified, and we have something to benchmark that. The spiritual mind believed in to the highest extent is what we call Ravan. Ravan in Ramayana. So he is the nemesis of Lord Ram. So he's the Ravan. Because if you heard Ravan, he is not saying wrong things. He's saying, I am also God. He is also God. Why should I bow down to him? Like that. At least that's what we hear. So he's not wrong, because ultimately we are one. You see? But he took it egoically. He took it mentally. You see? So that which seems like a helpful sounding spiritual advisor in your head, if you keep believing that, it is just giving more and more power to your spiritual ego, and we feel like we are growing, you see? But we are not actually growing in the right direction. It's very important to keep nipping it at the bud itself. Because if you keep buying into that, soon you won't want to listen to what I'm saying also. I've had these cases where you come to such a point where you believe so much from the spiritual mind, then I say, but let's then inquire into who you are. You see, I know who I am. You inquire into who you are. And so then they have all the right answers, but the presence is missing, the fragrance is missing. So I don't want any of you falling into that trap. So don't build any spiritual castles in your head. And it starts very simply. Okay? Simple position. Is it neutrality? Is it chasing the scent? Is it being empty? Or is it being in servitude to God? It creates conflicts where there are none actually. Just leave that. God is with you. You yourself said God's presence. And the mind says, where's the scope for the mind? If God is in front of you, or much more intimate than that, within yourself, you're really strong about that, because when you fully commit to just remain in the presence, then this one may still get you a few times, but it won't be like that. But when you are still looking for it for some value, okay, what does this mean? Then today's conclusions will become tomorrow's confusions. So this is the path of insight to inquiry, to find out who you are. What happens is that with the highest insight, with the deepest inquiry, you may find that most of the notions of the me, most of the identity is cleaned out. It's cleaned out. You live moment to moment. You're for the first time truly perceiving even this world. So many will say that the light of this world actually has gone up. Was there always this much light? Because attention now is not dispersed between thoughts and the world. So you may even see this dream much more clearly than before. Your intuition is fully relied on, so you feel like you have such a sense of ease about being, moment to moment, no matter where you are. You carry this ease about yourself. But, and some bad news is coming, so, but in spite of all of this, in the human condition, you see, there is no real report on one who left the me completely in spite of the higher spiritual insight. So I call that tiny me that remains, I call it the me who remains. My daughter is not listening, otherwise she would like the Marvel references I'm using. But so this me who remains, you see, that one must be kept in a deep love of God and in a deep servitude to God. And in India, this combination of love and servitude is called bhakti. The path of insight is called jnana. To be deeply in love with God's presence and God's reality, and to make ourselves available to follow His will, is the only true recourse for this me that remains. Because without these anchors, this me starts reinventing itself in a spiritual light, but that is the whole spiritual ego that we were talking about. So, and you've seen that, no? You've seen that some friends or even some teachers, you can tell that at their core they had some true spiritual insight. But then what they built out of that was a new identity and a spiritual ego. And now they've made themselves available and in service to that spiritual ego. Because both jnana and bhakti are important. And in many cases the bhakti was forgotten. You can also build an identity around the bhakta. That's why jnana is also important. You can get fully involved in just the identity of being a servant, or just like, I love God so much, I love God, so I love God, you see. But you can sense the I is very prominent there, right? So we have to be careful of that, and that's why jnana is important. So both, like Bhagwan Sri Ramana Maharishi said, in spirituality there are two wings, jnana and bhakti. Both are important. So this love for God must be cultivated, must be honored, must be valued. How do you love God? Being headless. Now, suppose you say that, but I can't love God. And I said, we were having this conversation, one of us, the other day. So I said, how do you love a child? Huh? Unconditionally, but what is a good tool? If you remember that the child, the love comes. No? Suppose you met a really sweet baby, and then when you remember the baby's name, then the love can come. So, how to love God? One of the ways, if it doesn't seem to be happening organically or even otherwise, remember His name. Whichever name you feel the most resonance with. See? Now, what may happen many times if you pick up this path of chanting or prayer is that initially you may say Ram, 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 so much love, so much love. You see? Maybe insights will come, maybe spiritual experiences will come, everything. But after a week of Ram, Ram, stop this now. You don't even love Ram so much. You have been a Shiv Bhakt. What are you doing? This kind of tricks the mind plays, isn't it? It tries to get you off this path. Why is it trying to do that? If you were a policeman and the thief saw that you were going in the wrong way, would it stop the policeman? No. It knows that you're getting close. So it starts throwing these distractions at you. You've always been a Gyan Yogi. Look at you sitting and chanting. Huh? No, the other way around. You're asking, who am I? And your mind is saying, I just want to hear a bhajan instead. Can I not sit and hear a bhajan instead? You see, either way, it fools us. But you must let your heart guide you until that heart guidance is not available. You must listen to the words of the external master who's been made available to you. Because the mind is waiting to trick you at every step. One child, she said, my mind was telling me, no, she didn't say, she said, I was hearing this guidance. You see, saying, do this, do that. You see? So be careful of this authoritative sounding voice because it is the mind. I've given you the tools to use to check on whether it is your heart, the presence of unconditional love, the presence being palpable, and the reality of yourself, which is only known intuitively. You see? If that is apparent to you and guidance is coming, then that guidance you can trust as your heart guidance coming from the Sadguru presence. The simpler trick, the simplest one, of course, is that when you're guided from the heart, then your pure perception is not interrupted. But you have to not be living in a haze to notice this. If you're living in a haze, half in your mind, half in God's presence, it all seems, and then you get a pointer like this, that pure perception is not interrupted. And you start to notice more and more. That if you are listening to your mind, the world seems to blur in front of you. Have you noticed that? If you're thinking, no, you'll forget you're in this room also soon. Which is like, what did my daughter-in-law tell me today? How can she be like that? You see? And you've forgotten that where you're sitting and what you're listening to. Then the world seems to become blurry. But I'm guiding you, I'm saying that if you're being guided by God's presence intuitively, then the pure perception of the world is not interrupted in that. The light still seems to be light. Everything still seems to be alive, and yet the guidance can come. But if you think instead, you will see it'll get blurry. So that's a quick tip. But for that already we must be used to not living in a haze. If we're already living in like a fog of war, then this tip may not be helpful. So then you may go to your unconditional love, the presence of being. But as you get used to living moment to moment in God's presence, it will be easier. Mike? He had a question first.
What I wanted to talk about is that this presence, this I am presence, has been made apparent to you.
Yes.
And feel to a certain degree it's clear that it's more than just mind and body, you know. But I don't know if I can say with such confidence that this presence is the Lord's presence, you know. And I also feel like you said, that I am a sinner, no? Because although this is being revealed, there's still the going with Maya, no, with the temptations, and the going with the resistance to sit and to look at this. And
Okay, this is a good start. And so first we must find out from where are we looking to conclude that this is God's presence. Is it? Where are we looking to create that conviction or confidence? Is it because if you really evaluate the word conviction, what is conviction? It is a really strongly held belief, isn't it? I'm really convinced about this, means I really believe it strongly. So this doesn't need conviction, it needs faith. You see, and what is faith? Most people think faith is also just like a belief, but it isn't. Faith is to trust what your heart is showing you more than what your mind is telling you. You see? So, what is your heart saying? Whose presence is this? It's God's presence. Look at that. So, now to stay with that heart guidance, because the mind will come and say, but you just said, it'll create doubt. You see, it'll do all of that. Don't go with that. So that is how to conclude that this that I'm talking about is really God's presence, only from the heart itself. So don't look for the mind to be convinced. What is the second part of what you said?
that this of being a sinner, you know, and
Yes.
going with temptation.
Yeah, that is the human condition. That is the human condition. So when God is available to us, then to go on our own mental terms, you see, that is the error, or as it is called sin. Most of you hate that word, you see. But this error is something that everyone commits. You see? Everyone commits. So, but when we do commit that, we must, when we recognize, when we notice the error, we must run home. Not to commit more and more of the error. So I made an error, let me do 3 more. I was on a diet, it was intermittent fasting, no eating window. But I picked up a salad, I forgot, you know, so I had some salad. So now I've eaten the salad, I might as well have the spaghetti and the tiramisu. I don't know why Italian food has come, you know, like that. So, like this. So once you notice, I went with my own terms, I went with my mind's terms, which we call my own terms. So just return to your heart guidance as fast as you can. And don't, this whole journey is beautifully to try and fail. You see, to try and then to fail and then to try again and then to fail. I'm saying beautifully because if I just say it is to try and fail, it sounds oppressive. You see, but every moment that you're spending in God's presence is such a beautiful gift. So trying or the remaining in God's presence is not oppressive. But it is the human condition that everyone fails. Everyone fails. Now that I don't want to give you like a number, how much failing is fine and how not, because we make that into a benchmark and a checker guy. But just know that everyone who is truly spiritual remains with spirit, and then at some point or the other mind tempts them into something. They fail, but they recognize quickly. So don't ever feel that you're alone in this. So the prayer is my prayer too. The words, have mercy on me, a sinner, is my prayer as well. Because can I, with integrity, say that 100% of my time goes in God's presence? No. All actions come out of God's will? No. There are still times where I just presume I'm right about something and just go with that. Just don't, I rush instead of waiting for God.
Sometimes I make this prayer that may He just make it so urgent in my heart, that there's not so much space to go with this pool of mine. Yeah.
This is a beautiful thing that may it become so urgent. Is it? But imagine the beauty of it, that if it was not urgent at all, that you had an eternity and there was no problem, and still you chose to be with God all the time. It would also be so beautiful. Isn't it? Thank you. Very good. Very
Father, other day you were saying that, continue.
good. To be heard in the room also.
The other day you were saying that always have the prayer, whatever you're doing, ADS prayer. Father, when you just said that, you're in pure perception, that's how you check. And I feel that's so true. When you're praying, you're in pure perception, you're not. So we can continue with whatever we are doing and still be.
Yes, yes. That's how it becomes unceasing. It's very important. In the sense that when you start, it may seem like you have to work with your attention so much and you have to resist the mind, you take some doing. But once your prayer life takes its own life, it comes alive, then external activities can keep happening, things can keep moving. Your perception is not interrupted by true prayer. Okay. I lose all the chat. Okay, so Samia asked a question. Yes, my dear, it's fine. You can do that. Father, who takes rebirth again and again? Is it consciousness? Yes. Who has the dream? If you have a dream tonight, this body won't be there. This dream character won't be there. This dream name won't be there. And maybe the world itself, the realm itself may be completely different. Is it? So who is the one that has a dream? Whose dream is this? Is it not possible that you're hearing this or you're here in this absurd sort of setting, that this itself could be a dream? So whose dream is that? The same one has all the births, the same one lives all the lives, and all the deaths. Best is not to think about these things, but to contemplate them. For most, it seems like to think about and to contemplate is the same thing, but it isn't. You carry the question with you, but wait for the intuition, your Sadguru presence to respond instead of conceptual answers. Because conceptual answers you can just Google or chat GPT, whatever. But true insight will only come from a deeper place. So, is there a God? What is the purpose of life? What does it mean to be or existence? What is the true mode of knowledge? All these answers will only come from a deeper place. Humanity has tried to solve them in the head for centuries, but no real answers have come. What about the new ones? No questions? बहुत डरा दिया कि नहीं? Nice. Give her the mic. The mic is only for Zoom. It doesn't work in this room, so you still have to speak up. Huh?
Okay, so I basically, because you mentioned about contemplation, so what if in this life you don't really figure out the answers?
Yes. You don't
Is
need
it,
feel a
yeah,
need for answers.
is it life wasted then?
If you don't feel a need for answers because you know it all, or because you're just happy in your presence.
We don't figure out.
Yeah, we just don't figure it out only. Yeah,
If you don't figure out the
yeah,
answers, so you have the questions,
yeah,
but you don't find the answers.
yes,
Yes. If you take the questions to the true place, you will find the answer. Huh? So, because all answers are, this will sound contradictory, but all answers are instantly available in Atma Gyan, in the presence of being. When the knowledge of the self is apparent, then all knowledge is apparent to us, because the self is truly all there is. But what may happen is that it may not come to the surface. You see, it may not, it's not a cheat code. You can't just say, yes, I've come to self-realization. Now I must know everything about everybody's life, and we've not unless that is what the Sadguru presence wants, unless that is what the Atma wants. You see? You may find that these things may get amplified, that you just know something, you don't know how you know. You see, it's just there. So these things may get amplified. But when you come to this, most people say that I was lost, but now I'm found. You see? Where does that foundness come from? The sense of foundness comes because it seems like everything is clear, everything is apparent. You see? Now, does that mean automatically that everything will be available for the mouth to say or the hand to write? Not necessary. Because grace moves that in the right quantity, in the right amount. But it is from the same space that sages thousands of years ago were able to write about things which scientists are still discovering from intuitive insight. It's so sweet that so many of my daughter's friends have been saying, I want to come to Satsang here. It also shows you that youngsters' lives are getting very complicated at a very young age. Because they're already looking for answers and solutions. Like I had quite a eventful childhood also, but the kind of stuff that happens with these kids, like when my daughter talks to me about it, already at such a young age they're forced to grow up so fast. So I'm happy that some of them are finding the way to satsang. All right, good.